Hello, Teresa.
Hi, Corey. How are you?
I'm pretty well, thanks. Yourself?
Very well, very well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today. You're the latest cab off the rank in a series of interviews I'm doing with wonderful CEOs in our sector. And you're the CEO of Mallee Family Care. For those who might not be familiar with your organisation, what sort of things are you responsible for?
Well, Mallee Family Care in 2019 started celebrations for our 40th year. So we've been a community service organisation providing programs to the Mallee region and southwest New South Wales for 40 years, a little bit longer now. To our communities of interest. And we began as a direct result of out-of-home care. The history is we had a lot of kids that were being sent to Melbourne, and foster care grew as a direct result of that within our community. So child and family services is in our DNA. It's always what we've been a part of in Victoria and New South Wales. And from there, I guess we just naturally grew. We began financial counselling not long after that time and homelessness support services, and we receive a number of funding from Victorian and New South Wales state governments as well as federal government, and we do everything with an early intervention focus, predominantly in relation to children and families. But we also provide services in the area of mental health, community legal, community engagement is a strong focus of ours. Policy reform and advocacy is quite strong and front and centre for our organisation. And we also provide NDIS support services, allied health, and a suite of family law programs like family relationship centre mediation, post-separation, parenting education programs and those types of things. So it's quite multidisciplined, it's quite varied, and we're a place-based organisation. And so the people who work here are the people from the Mallee community.
Fantastic. So you're really working across the community, and that must be a very interesting job. I'm curious to know how it's been for you as a CEO during coronavirus to be across all of those different sectors and areas.
Yeah, well, I guess for us in the community, Corey, if we're talking social indicators, the Mallee wasn't faring that well in the state of Victoria. We were hitting the top 5 on a number of areas where we weren't doing well. And those areas we weren't dealing well in are a low educational attainment for kids in our community. Family violence and crime was high. We also had poor social outcomes for kids in out-of-home care, and we also had an increase of kids transitioning into out-of-home care. And that's across both jurisdictions, not just isolated to Victoria. But what was also compounding for us during that time is that we were feeling the effects of drought. Drought hasn't gone away for us during this time of COVID. And we have the beautiful Murray River that connects into the Darling not far away from here. So we have a very big issue with the Murray-Darling Basin, or the lower part of the Murray-Darling Basin, that we continue to grapple with and deal with on a political level, as well as an economic and social level, and the impacts that has across all of our horticultural communities in the Mallee region. So we had those issues. Corona arrived. It didn't dissipate the other issues we were already dealing with. It actually just compounded it. So we've just had to keep on going and work our way through all of it at the same time.
Yeah, wow. So it's very interesting. Most of the organisations that I've been interviewing the CEOs for have been metropolitan. So yeah, you rarely, I guess, in the city think about those additional environmental factors that are at play in regional areas. That must be extra tough. And, you know, as you've been navigating through all this, you know, the coronavirus issues, the pre-existing issues, what has surprised you most during the period?
Well, it's a no-brainer. It has to be the staff. It's the commitment and the dedication of every single one of our staff, right from the person answering the phone first thing in the morning to the person who's doing the home visit of a child and family, or going out into our early years preschool environments. During this whole period, our staff have not wavered from their role or their responsibility, because they firmly are committed to the communities in which they provide service to. And so there's a real enthusiasm to keep maintaining that line of sight of our very vulnerable kids and families in our community. And that is why during this whole time, Corey, we haven't closed any of our services. We might have closed the front doors to our office buildings, but we have maintained every single program, and that's by virtue of the staff showing their dedication and commitment to wanting to do that. And so I consider myself very lucky and very fortunate that I have such a committed workforce backing the community to back the families we work with, because we have to. If we're not here, who else is going to pick up that service?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. And I'm curious, you've sort of had reinforced for you the hard work and discipline and resilience of your workforce. Are there other things that you've discovered during this period of coronavirus afflicted work that you think you'll take into life beyond the pandemic, things that will change how your organisation will operate in the future?
Well, I think we've had lots of conversations about how we deliver our practice, and I come back to that point that we're a community that is probably the furthest away from Melbourne. So we're in the state of Victoria, but for Mildura, our closest capital city is actually in Adelaide in South Australia. Wow. So we're a tri-border town. We cross the bridge and we're into New South Wales. It's a 5-minute drive away. We're 4 hours away from Adelaide. What that means is we've always done business a little bit differently. We've always used options of Zoom or Microsoft Teams to conduct appointments or interviews. We've had a lot of areas of business where people travel elsewhere for work and come back to the Mallee for home. So working remotely has always been a part of our platform to delivering services. What's a little bit different is a noticeable change in what staff will tolerate. And by that, I mean they're really good at agitating and pushing a position. And so what COVID has taught all of us, and my mantra to the staff is you always ask the question why. Never be comfortable in something that someone has said to you in responding to a client issue. So what I'm seeing more of, what I'm hearing more of, is the staff really going into an advocacy position for the purpose of our clients, and won't tolerate anything less than the right service that they deserve. So I've really admired the staff capacity that has built over this time with our staff. And I think if you get that, you really are looking at a high quality of work in this community that the community should therefore be very proud of as well. And so we'll keep on continuing with that position. Some departments and organisations might not like that position, but we're here for our clients, aren't we, at the end of the day?
Okay, that's very inspiring to hear. And, it's a very difficult time, of course, compounded by existing conditions in your part of the world in Victoria. What are you doing, to take care of not only your staff, but also yourself?
Well, we've developed little routines, Corey, and so while we may not have face-to-face meetings like we once did, my role I see as taking my morning coffee and walking around the building and checking in on all the staff every single morning, and just having a normal conversation, talking about something that's not COVID related, whatever that might be. And just getting involved in the day-to-day operations as well, and reinforcing the view that the staff are doing really great work during this time, which can be very difficult. but also reminding staff that there is other stuff going on for them outside of work, and we need to remind all of ourselves of that as well. So for me, it's about making sure I check in with staff. What I'm doing for myself is probably chasing a 12-month-old golden Labrador around the house. It's giving me grief. That's a great distraction right now, Corey.
Oh, that's lovely. I really want to get a golden Labrador myself, but I find they're quite hard to get. There's a very limited supply. So
would you like one?
Sorry?
Would you like one? I've got one.
If I can arrange that, I would absolutely take it off your hands. But I think you need it to keep doing the important work you're doing. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Teresa. It's been a real pleasure. And I wish you the best in everything that you're doing in the Mallee.
Thank you so much, Corey, and thank you to you and your team for doing such great work as well.